For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Good evening. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur, presented by FL Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller. Good evening, Josh.
Hello, Dan.
And tonight in the program, very excited to talk about the restaurant business. I'm a big foodie, of course, and love chatting with restaurateurs.
We are both big foodies, Dan, no question about it. And, so many restaurants in this town. They open, they close, they stay, they come, they go. This is one that's it's fairly new, hasn't been around too long, about a year and a half. But the two guys, two of the owners, have been in this game for decades. Should be interesting.
Yep, we'll talk to Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca. They're on the way. But first, a bit of a chat about various entrepreneurial news and notes of the week. And we'll start with tomorrow night. We're going to be doing something. FL is sponsoring an event that helps sort of entrepreneurs not showcase the good parts necessarily, but showcase their failures.
You know, this is a concept that's been around a really long time, Dan, and it actually started in Mexico City, and it's we can't say it on air. It's F up nights. It's effed up nights or fouled up nights. We can say on air, but it's basically there's so many entrepreneurs that love and have been listening to success stories. These are the failures. These are the ones where people really learn their lessons. Silicon Valley has one called, that mimics the Day of the Dead, and it's basically big entrepreneurs that follow that story. In Canada, they kind of mimic it. There's a group out west that have been doing these failure events. So this is just in line with that. This is our little Montreal version. Entrepreneurs that are going to share their failure stories. Effed up nights. You can check that out. You might have the information. Fun.
Facebook.com/Fun Montreal.
Exactly. Tomorrow night at Le Salon 1861. Great little common social and of course co-work sharing space that we've been talking about a little bit lately too.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to hear that. Another bit of business news from actually this past couple of days, really. American Apparel has got to be such an interesting company. I mean, the founder, very colorful guy, very controversial, but the company itself and the way it's built, so interesting. And I've said it on the air before, I wear the products, they're good quality products, but was there something that wasn't sustainable there? I mean, can we really produce clothing on that volume manufactured in North America these days?
I think there's, SKUs, okay? SKUs. What is a SKU? SKU is basically a single item in a single store. Now, it's not as if stores and businesses have 100 SKUs or 200 SKUs. Places like American Apparel have thousands and thousands, and I dare to say tens of thousands of SKUs that they have to manage and keep in store and keep available. And it's not as if they were doing a lot of basics. There was a lot of trends there. When you have trends and you have big inventory, that's a big beast. If you can't keep churning that and you don't have outlets to get it moved out the store, because inventory is not cash. Cash is king. If you can't move that inventory, you are absolutely dead in the water.
So we have a company that's sort of founded in many ways in Montreal by a former Montrealer, and now apparently being saved by some more Montrealers at Gildan.
So Gildan bought the American Apparel division. I think it was $66 million or something like that. Because American Apparel, they tried to get saved from bankruptcy about a year ago, and I guess they never emerged from it. And Gildan came to the rescue. Now Gildan itself is a big operation, but they might be able to do it better. They'll start from scratch. They'll probably knock down quite a number of SKUs. They'll also cover on the manufacturing side because they understand what vertical means. So could be great for these two somewhat Montreal-based companies to get together and make something good out of it.
So we haven't talked about CETA much, this European free trade deal. What are your thoughts on this, and do you think it'll be a positive step for Canadian businesses who want to have closer ties to Europe?
My comments are going to be more about the SMEs, more about the small business. And Dan, you and I chatted a little bit off air last week about it. I don't believe in it. I just don't see how small businesses can really take a true bite out of this CETA, this closer economic trade arrangement, or whatever the acronym stands for, with the European Union. If you're a small business, you're going to make it or break it whether CETA exists or not. You're either going to spend the dollars and the resources and the time to invest in the European market, or you're not. And it's not going to be a few clauses here or there in what supposedly is supposed to make cross-border bilateral trade easier. Just for that, it takes a lot more than just a CETA to make good business, especially for small businesses. If you're a large business, yeah, there's probably some great clauses in there. It says some possibly reduced tariff. I didn't really read the entire document, but I know there was an article in the Financial Post that even said there's small businesses really won't take advantage of this because it's not just about the free trade agreement or the closer economic trade agreement. It's about, can small business afford to get into a complete other market? It is, they have to invest in design, they have to travel, they have to be present for a long enough period because buyers are discerning and they want to make sure that who they're buying from is solid and stay. And so they'll want to maybe see you around there for a season or 2 or 8. So there's a lot more investment that goes into it other than just CETA. So for me, small business, I'm not so sure if they can really benefit from this.
So you're saying that big business as it stands now, they can already get into Europe without CETA, and they have been. But for small business, does CETA have to sort of come along with maybe some government funding to help small businesses get into Europe?
Government funding will always be welcomed by small businesses, no question about it. But government funding alone won't help because if you need sustained, you need to be there a long time. You need sustained economic interest and investment in that region that you're going to sell. If you think you're going to go there and sell for one season, unless you somehow get super lucky and you have the greatest fad since sliced bread, then maybe. But if you don't have it, if you don't have that thing that's going to work really well, if you can't get that special, Amsterdam product that's going to sell in the red light district, it's going to be hotcakes or hash cakes, as in the case may be, then it's going to take too much time and resources and money.
We didn't talk about this last month, but it's pretty interesting. The 2016 rankings of Canada's most entrepreneurial cities. This is done by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business for the Financial Post, and they're out as of just a couple weeks ago, but we didn't get to them. But it's pretty interesting results, but a bit sad in our case. So the top 3 are Kelowna, BC, Toronto, and Barrie, Ontario. And out of 40 cities, Montreal is ranked
40.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the list, if you look outside of Montreal, because they kind of have, the city of Toronto, the city of Montreal, the city of Calgary, but they also have periphery. And the periphery around Montreal was actually classified as 9th. So if you kind of look outside the island, there's, and I think there's a little bit of understanding to that because it is expensive to operate on the island, at least more so than the periphery. And some of the businesses, certainly tech, certainly on the entrepreneurial side, they need to keep costs lower and costs down. So it makes a lot more sense that it's not actually in the city itself and that it is all around, les alentours.
Article by Leah Eichler in the Globe and Mail. Weed is coming to your office, and that's okay. Under the heading of the future of work. Is this really a realistic thing that the entrepreneurs are going to deal with? I mean, employees who have, I guess, prescriptions or stuff, or they just smoking outside, taking a smoke break, just like a cigarette break.
Well, here's the thing: marijuana has and will become more legalized as time goes by. A certain number of states in the U.S., medicinal purposes, ultimately recreational purposes. Justin Trudeau has already, had started that wave and said, no, it's going to come and it's going to be legalized and it's going to be more present as days goes on. So what does that mean for employers? Well, what's going to happen when your employee comes in that morning and has taken that recreational drag? Are they going to be productive? Are they, like you say, are they going to take a break? How are employers are they going to have to do drug testing? Productivity levels may go down. Maybe for some people they'll go up, who knows? But productivity levels. But how do you regulate it? If it's legal, smoking is legal. How do you regulate it? This, although impairs brain function to a certain degree. How do you figure that out? Employers are going to have a minefield of figuring out what's what. And are they going to have to institute drug testing? There's so many different areas. But if they want to be progressive and they want to have, the young talent, they might have to be a little lenient in some areas. It's going to be a tough game to follow.
As it is, people who smoke cigarettes are often ostracized at the workplace, or our colleagues sometimes are jealous of their prolonged breaks. I mean, what do you say to your employees if someone's taking too many smoke breaks?
I say it all works out in the end. If you're a hard worker, you have work ethic. If they're taking breaks, they have to kick in somewhere else. It's not just one factor that defines an employee. There are several. That's just one. And a real employer will understand where the good, the bad, and the ugly lie in the employee.
All right, coming up on today's Entrepreneur, we're going to talk to Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca, talk about the restaurant business, of course, a very hot business here in Montreal. And later on the program, Patrick Sullivan, our trustee and partner at Fuller Landau, will talk about restaurant bankruptcies, because we have a lot of restaurant openings in Montreal, and unfortunately not all of them survive, but Restaurant Doca did, and they'll tell us their story coming up.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL Fuller Landau's Josh Miller with you. And Josh, I love talking about the restaurant business. Both big foodies here in Montreal. And let's welcome Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca into studio. Victor's, welcome to CJD.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So first question is the easiest. Tell me about Doca.
So Doca, it's a new restaurant. We opened for a year and a half. And the type of cuisine, it's more cuisine du marché with a little Portuguese specialty, since we both Portuguese and even the chef. So we do have a little Portuguese specialty on the restaurant.
Now, where are you guys located?
We're in Griffintown, so corner of Peel and Wellington. It's a new district. It's like a hot spot now. Eventually, it's going to be even hotter.
There's no question that Griffintown, certainly in the last few years, has, it has a whole restaurant following, whether it's on Notre Dame or a little bit elsewhere. Location definitely plays a huge role. And we'll come to that in a moment, because just getting that area, just getting that location is a coup in and of itself. But you guys, Victor, you said you started about a year and a half ago, but this is not where you guys started in the restaurant business. You have many years of experience. Where did you guys, I guess, get your feet wet before?
Yeah, I was like really young, probably 18 years old. My first job, I was a busboy at the Ritz-Carlton. So that's long time ago.
Not that long ago, Victor. You're young. Come on.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. So after that, I started as a waiter at La Luna. That was on Saint Laurent Street. It was that area of restaurants used to be like really, really popular. And after that, at the Ferreira Cafe, manager and sommelier for long years. I was there for almost 18 years. And after that, what I thought was time to open my own place. So here we go, a new
venture, a new challenge,
Absolutely.
A new venture.
And there's always something to learn.
No question. And Victor, your background?
Yeah, I started at Prima Donna back in the heydays of St. Lawrence Street. And then after that, I went to Cavalli, where I stayed there like 10 years, did like every position. And I worked for that group for other restaurants as well, Biche and all those.
Now, you guys, I mean, you've seen lots of sides of this restaurant business, but you didn't see the ownership side until you got into it. Yeah. You were still enticed. Of all the years, you still felt it was a sexy enough industry to stay in it and really want to open up your own place, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But no question, there's challenges. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about lots of those challenges. And of course, how you guys found the location, because that's super interesting.
And maybe the food too. Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca, our guests this evening on today's Entrepreneur.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
This evening, we're with Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca. They are at the corner of Wellington and Peel. And guys, what's a pretty up-and-coming neighborhood. A lot of young professionals there. Stuff is popping up there like crazy. How did you snag such a great location? I mean, that's going to be one of the hottest neighborhoods in Montreal now.
Yeah, I hope so. It started a couple of years ago, but I mean, there's still another year or two or even three before it's done. So the way we find this spot there was, we'll say like a regular customer. They used to come at my other restaurant, and he was asking me a couple of times that if it was interesting to open something with him. He had like a great spot, and he asked me a couple of times since those years that I know him. And one time I was like, yeah, maybe now I think it's a good idea. I think it's time maybe to move on and do something else. So he showed me that spot, and I kind of fell in love with the spot. It was like really nice, really open. So that's the way we just started.
So the spot found you. Well, your customer for a long time found us. The spot really found you. You didn't. So were you planning on opening a restaurant before then, or it started with the location and then kind of snowballed from there?
I think it started with location. Yeah. Well, it actually, personally, if it wasn't for that location, I wouldn't open a restaurant right now, or I would look for it. But being in Griffintown and all the buzz around it, you know, it persuaded me to go for it. Let's go, you know.
Now, this past client brought the location. Did he get into the business with you as well?
He's a partner with us.
He's our third partner.
And so partners. So you're the three of you that are partners. Do you guys you share roles? I mean, is some of you more administrative, some of you more service? Like what's that? How does that work?
But me and Victor, we take care more of the room, the orders, the alcohol, the wines, everything on the restaurant, and the other partners taking care more of the office, comptabilité, that type of stuff. There's a lot of doing on a restaurant. There's a lot of things to do.
No question. And
you cannot do it by yourself.
No. Of course, and the hiring and the firing and the marketing, is that more that lies on your guys' hands or on you guys as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes on to a restaurant. You know, Dan, we certainly we don't always go into the actual operations with entrepreneurs, but there are so many things that happen day to day, and we always say, you know, the entrepreneurs can't leave the store. They have to mind the store. They have to be there. There's no truer place that applies to than a restaurant. If they aren't there, now you're not there now,
Yeah.
so you have a good guys rocking the
yes.
store.
It's okay. It's for an hour, so it's not so bad.
Exactly, and there's no fire. You'll get called if there's a fire.
We trust the people.
You trust it, which is actually very important. But when we come back from the break, we'll also talk about that human resource aspect, because that's huge.
Yep.
There are people that are serving your customers that are really responsible for your name and reputation, and that can't be treated lightly.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur, presented by FL Fuller Landau, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business. My name is Dan Delmar, along with FL's Josh Miller, and this evening we're talking about the restaurant business with a couple of victors, because, well, they survived the first year, which is the ultimate victory, but we're here with Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca. So you found an incredible location. I mean, it's Peel and Wellington is going to be one of the hot corners now for young professionals in Montreal. The condo towers are going up everywhere. You guys see them. So now you're good to go. You're all set. But tell me about the early moments. You started, you were saying, by finding it came with the location first, and then it grew from there. So how did you take that box and then make it into Doca?
Well, we had to look for the designer. There's a lot of I could put obstacles or moments of the creation of Doca, which was like looking for the designer, looking for the kitchen designer.
How long was the process? Like from beginning to end?
It took a year.
A year's a long time. I know it's a build out, but a year's a long time.
Well, there's a condo association also implied there, because we're like located in a condo building. So there was like some stumbling there, but we picked it up. We had some doubts at one point, Maybe.
Have you guys ever built out a location before?
No.
So big learning curve for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
We'll learn as we go along. We learn, and
you learn from the contractors, from the general contractor.
Exactly, there
Everything.
too. There's so many things that you didn't know, like for the huts. We didn't know that has to be like
Certain way.
because we want to do it like on the roof, but then there was a terrace on the roof, so we had to forget about it. So we have to do it like until the back alley, and we had to put what do you call this? The filters, special filters for the
Ecological.
the whole HVAC
for the
system.
placenteur and all this. So there's always like something that you didn't know that. Oh, okay, now we have to move this. Then the ceiling is too high here, so we can do it this way. We have to change it that way.
There's a lot to do. Now, a year is still quite a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it any point? I guess you didn't expect it to take 1 year to do. Is there any point where you thought maybe we shouldn't continue?
Yeah.
Oh yes, a lot
For sure. For sure, but you know what? We stay positive, and we try to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Meaning, you have to do this. We're all 100% in it.
You were committed.
And the contractors were really nice also, because
Yeah.
if it's not for them,
They helped us.
they push it
helped
up.
us.
Like he knew that we really wanted to open, so they did push it up to finish the job, and
to make
here
it
we
what
go.
it is,
We
yeah.
have it done.
Now, okay, so you have the restaurant built, and I know so it took quite a long time to get done.
Yep.
But in this time, you're thinking about your operations, and you got to think about getting the name out there because it's still a fairly new area. I mean, yes, okay, you have a new hotel there, and there's some condos around, but people still have to know you exist. So, from a marketing standpoint, you guys had a lot of time to think about this. What did you guys do from a marketing standpoint that worked or didn't work?
But first of all, we knew a lot of clientele, because we are in the business for so long. So there's customers that I know for maybe 15, 20 years. So they were the first to come. Like when they knew that we opened, they come to visit.
So
And
you always stayed in contact with your clients, and you try to reach out to them one by
Oh,
one.
absolutely.
or-
It was like good customers and even friends. So they were waiting for the opening. So the first when we opened, we did pretty well because they all
When did you
Shout
open?
out
When
to
did you
them,
open,
by
by
the
the way?
the weekend of the Grand Prix last summer.
Not a bad weekend to open. It's a busy week, but people still have to know you exist, right? Because a lot of people are booked or made their plans in advance.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we
And-
did. Go ahead.
Exactly, and they want to take a chance because they was not sure if we're gonna be open for the weekend of the Grand Prix. So it was like, yes, we're gonna be open, no problem. So we did rush it to open it, absolutely.
Let me ask you one question that's a hot topic among local restaurateurs that can cut into the bottom line. No shows. When someone makes a reservation and then doesn't show up. Have you found that that's a problem, and how do you combat that?
Well, for us, still, because we're still new, so it doesn't affect us. It affects us in the way that we're expecting more people but we're a big space and we still have a lot of people. But eventually, this will become a problem if it keeps going. The fact that, like we're expecting a group of 6 or a group of 8 and then there's no show. And sometimes I actually have an anecdote with that. Like I called back a client asking them if they were still coming, whatever, and they answered the phone and I hear that he's in another restaurant having a meal. So I'm like, okay,
Now you guys are using of course, people like to book online.
Yep.
So Book and Open Table. I mean, those are certainly the 2 more popular ones in Montreal. Are you guys on one or both of them?
we're both.
Both more book and that, but we're on both, yeah.
Now, do you find that helpful? And what's that model? Is that a pay per click or pay per person? Like, how does that work? And do you find that I guess works for you?
Yes, I will say like 50% of the reservation it's online, and the other, but it depends on the nights and other days. But it's like half. Half they call in the restaurant, and the other half it's by line.
Would you say that that's also part of your marketing strategy is those online, because people also rate the service and rate the food? Do you monitor that? Do you keep
Absolutely,
tabs on
yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Do you follow up? I don't know to what extent you're even able to follow up with people.
Well, people review that whatever their experience are, like when they come, if they have a good experience or sometimes it's not good, we try to make it.
Most of it's like a really good commenters.
Yeah,
Even
the-
of Bukanda
We have a
and
good
Open
review.
Tables, we're pretty lucky with that.
And listen, it's word of mouth, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
every
best
pun
way.
intended, of course.
Yeah, that's the best way to promote.
Absolutely.
Did you try advertising in print? Did you
We did
do you find that
locally.
work?
We
Yeah.
did locally, not to the full extent of like going on a newspaper or whatever. But yeah, locally we promote our business.
Did it work for you? You
Yeah,
think?
yeah. Like neighborhood people come in, they all say, "Oh, I just moved in. I heard about you," and they.
But what about big magazines? Did you try and get into big magazines at first?
Not
Yeah.
yet. Well,
The En
we
Routes
did
of the
Guide
world.
Montréal. We did.
Yeah,
We did a
actually.
couple.
yeah, those but not big.
But it's on the hotels, and it's a bit.
Yeah.
3 or 4 types of reviews like that.
So the market here is a lot tougher than in other Canadian cities, right? How do you deal with the pressure of being in such an excellent cuisine city? I mean, do you feel that when you craft every single dish?
Well, we make sure that like every dish that comes out, we rely on our chef, which is like he has a lot of experience, but we make sure that every dish that comes out, it's up to our standards.
Now, chef is hugely important. I mean,
Yes.
especially as Dan is saying in this city. So, I mean, have you had the same chef since? So, have you made any changes?
No, we had
Anything
we
new?
had a change. We had a change. Our old chef just moved out to do
Another restaurant.
another restaurant. Yes, and we have a new chef that's known to Victor Diaz and myself. Marino used to be at Ferrera as well, and MKT, and now he's working for us, and he's very happy, and we're happy he's there.
And he was supposed to be the first chef who started with us. It just didn't happen the way we wanted, so we're really glad that we have him right now.
Now, we only have a moment left just before the 7:45 break, but people, talent, hiring, firing, is that a constant? Do you worry? Is that something that keeps you up at night as restaurateurs?
Well, it doesn't keep us up at night, but it's very hard to find good staff because I guess the values of the restaurant, let's say like that. As we go along, the new generation, they have like less knowledge of what it is to give good service.
You're hiring kids are out there, and you're hiring kids
Exactly.
because experienced people aren't always out there and ready to work.
Coming up next on today's Entrepreneur, we're going to talk. Now, this is something that obviously is not related directly to Restaurant Doca.
Well, it isn't, but it's very important for restaurateurs and other people, and with so many restaurants, unfortunately, not succeeding like Doca is. This is a fact of life.
So Patrick Sullivan, trustee and partner at Fuller Landau, is going to talk about the restaurant bankruptcy situation and why so many restaurants go under and that kind of process. So that is on the way. Plus, we'll have the one piece of advice from the two victors for today's Entrepreneur on the way.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Inspiring stories from outstanding business people. Dan Delmar and FL's Josh Miller with you, and we'll have Victor Diaz and Victor Battista in a few minutes from Restaurant Doca with their one piece of advice for today's Entrepreneur. But first, Patrick Sullivan joins us, trustee and partner at FL. And Patrick, it's a pretty dicey topic. There are tons of restaurants popping up in Montreal, and many pop up and many go away. Bankruptcy, restaurant bankruptcy. What is that process like? Could you take me through it if restaurateurs get to the point where they do get there? What happens once they declare?
Well, it's the same story for any type of bankruptcy, let it be a restaurant or any type of industry, as a matter of fact. People will go and meet a trustee in bankruptcy and file what we call a bankruptcy statement, and the creditors are advised. Trustee will take possession of the assets, namely the restaurant per se, and ultimately will liquidate those assets, normally on a fire sale basis. I think that one of the key concerns is that there's a lot of openings, a lot of foreclosures. We have this saying in my type of work where we say our new restaurant opens. First run, the guys are going to go bankrupt. Second run, the guys are going to go bankrupt. The third guy that's going to pick it up for next to nothing is going to make money. Location is obviously the key factor in the restaurants. Obviously, the government, when they instigated the SRM machines a few years back, the fancier restaurants do not take that much cash. Most people pay with credit cards or debit cards. But the smaller operators where, the guy that's selling hot dogs and french fries, it was a cash business, and the government figured out a way to stop that, the bleeding of the taxes. And that, a lot of them foreclosed because of that, either through assessments or whatever.
Well,
Or
the point of sale.
sometimes they planned to close too because they didn't want.
They knew it was
They
coming.
knew it was coming, and they didn't necessarily want to get caught. Likely.
Exactly.
So the government's point of sale system was so burdensome for some restaurateurs that some went under?
I think it's burdensome for all restaurant owners. And because now they have to monitor not only obviously what the customers pay, everything is declared. They also have to monitor the tips. They have to, include on the waiters and waitresses a part of their tips. Obviously, there's a big rotation in the personnel in the restaurant industry, and obviously, good restaurants need good service and good food. Owners have to realize the investment of time they have to put in there. And like Victor was saying, a lot of people have sold their businesses, and all of a sudden, hey, my dream is to own a restaurant. It's a different league where you have to invest so much time and be there physically to run the operation. And a lot of them just bail out, or they end up losing their shirt in the process.
And what's the biggest item that they owe on a balance sheet just before bankruptcy? Don't answer that question, but when we come back, we'll see what common things you've seen when restaurants, just before or as restaurants go under.
More with Patrick Sullivan, plus the one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur on the way.
For professional advice with a personal touch, consult FL Fuller Landau, Chartered Professional Accountants and Business Advisors. Click on flmontreal.com.
Coming up, Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca will share their one piece of advice each for today's entrepreneur. But first, Patrick Sullivan talking about restaurant bankruptcies, Josh, and what is the backbreaker? What is the thing that kills a restaurant's momentum?
And what are the two things? Just before we left on the break, we asked Pat what is the single biggest debtor on a balance sheet, or what's the biggest number that you see when you walk in?
In most situations, it definitely is going to be the government for unpaid GST, QST. Deductions at source are also a concern when you have a high volume of people working for you. But the tendency, since bankers don't like to finance restaurants, 99% of the time, the owner-operators or the operators, if it's tough, they're going to finance themselves with the GST, QST. So they end up racking up considerable amounts of money owing back. It'll last a while until all of a sudden they either get audited or, they misfile or whatever, and then it comes and hits them in the face.
And chances are they don't own their own building, so the landlord.
The landlord's the second biggest one. I mean, the landlord's going to support for a while because obviously he doesn't want to have an empty spot. But eventually there's a limit to giving that support.
So if the restaurant's failing, watch out for your personal guarantees as directors first.
Absolutely.
GST, QST, deduction at source, and whatever else you sign personally, and then the rest we'll take care of it.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Pat. And as we approach the last moment of our show, we'll turn to Victor Battista and Victor Diaz, one at a time, guys, and ask you what would be your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur.
Well, if you go into a restaurant business, you have to be like 100% dedicated to the project, and it has to come from the heart, and like to be full out for the good service, and you want to give good food, good service, just not be there because it's fun, all in games, that's
Great.
Yeah, that's a bit the point of the restaurants. You need a lot of hours to put in, because you have to be free 24/24 because there's always something to do. You can have a call at night, day, in the morning. So yeah, you need a lot of hours to put in. That's for sure.
And I think Dan, we didn't actually talk about this specific topic, but both Victors are raising it, and that's the sacrifices that entrepreneurs make when they They throw their heart and soul into their business. Now they, and families, they can lose out too. So there's a lot of sacrifice going on. Kudos, which is why sometimes partnerships work in restaurants, that you can kind of lean a little bit on each other. But sacrifices that entrepreneurs make, you can never underplay that too much.
Thank you very much, Victor Diaz and Victor Battista of Restaurant Doca. Pretty hot corner there on Wellington and Peel. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to Patrick Sullivan as well from FL. And Josh, you're off next week. Your partner, Michael Newton.
No, I'm
will be
here next
you're
week,
next
and
week.
2 weeks
The
I won't be here.
Perfect. So I didn't say anything.
No, all good.
Marimel Solutions up next week on Today's Entrepreneur. Have a good night.